Hey there, I am Christie Ruffino, former broke single mom turned CEO of two six-figure businesses and best-selling author with 15 books. But it wasn't always like this. Not long ago, I was a hot mess. Yes, I did a lot of things right, but mostly I was throwing spaghetti on the wall to see what would stick. Fast forward past many failed attempts and a few incredible victories, I not only get to share what I've learned along the way, I get to bring together top influencers as they share their empowering stories, insider secrets, and valuable resources that can be used right now to step into your power. So, if you're an ambitious entrepreneur, or possibly one in the making, and you're looking to create a business and life that lights you up, well, then you're in the right place. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Mastery Unleashed podcast. This is Christie Ruffino, and I'm really excited about the episode today. I always am fascinated about people who help others shift their life through shifting their beliefs. And Shiraz Baboo is a definite expert in this space. He is become known as a reality interventionist. He helps people write their reality and overcome challenges in their lives using what he calls energetic magic. Shiraz has helped thousands of people overcome illness, poverty, and unconsciously addicted struggles. And we talk about that. Like, what is a reality addict? He dives into that and he shows you, or he'll talk about how you can shift that to become emotionally free and accomplish all of your heart's desires. So let's get on with the show so you can learn from Shiraz and be inspired by Shiraz and create changes in your life with the tools he shares and the free resource he gives at the end of the interview. So let's get on with the show. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to today's show. I'm really excited for you to be with us today. So you have a chance to meet one of my newer friends, Shiraz, and talk about the topic that he is a specialist in. But before we dive into content, I just want to welcome you, Shiraz, to the show today.
Thank you so much. So glad to be here, Christy.
Yeah, well, we met in person, believe it or not, not online. We met in person at the beginning of the year on the Marketers Cruise. And
Yes.
I know we have a lot of people in common, and we ended up by spending a little time together, and you had done a little work with you, which kind of blew my mind, the things that you were able to do and the things that I saw you doing with other people. So I'm just really glad that we were able to get you booked into our show so that way our audience can see or hear your brilliance.
I just realized that sounds really bad out of context. Blew my mind the things I saw you doing with other people.
Well, I'm hoping that people are intrigued and they're going to be like,
Okay.
"Ooh, I want to know what Shiraz was doing with people." So no, it was all good stuff, and you were definitely the talk of the boat with some people because they saw what was going on and they're like, "Wow, that was so cool."
It's fun.
Yeah, very fun. So, you are known as a reality interventionist.
Yes.
And yeah, so like, did you just wake up one morning, or were you a little boy Shiraz running around with your bat cape and thinking, I'm going to be a reality interventionist? Like, how did this all happen?
Oh, it's because I discovered about reality addiction. And there's when you have a drug addiction, you need someone to do an intervention. And when I found out about reality addiction, I'm like, well, who the hell is going to do a reality intervention on me? And that whole thing started from the fact that when I'm a mutt. I don't know if you know that.
I'm a mutt too.
I'm
So we're like, let's
okay.
bump. We're gonna shoulder
Cool.
bump.
So yeah, I'm Indian, Malaysian, African, and like South African, Zulu tribe, and Dutch.
Oh,
So there's a
wow.
lot going on. Yeah, there's a lot going
Yeah, you I
on.
think you beat me.
Okay. And I mostly present to people as Indian and Black, but some people have thought I was Moroccan, Egyptian, Brazilian, Iranian. So, which, that's all well and good, except when I started to travel, I started having to deal with a lot of what I felt was racism traveling. So the first big incident was I had just gotten back from Rio with a bunch of my friends. And after we went through customs, this officer comes up and he goes, "We need to ask you more questions." I'm like, "Okay, guys, they need to ask us more questions." And he's like, "No, no, no, not them, just you." And my friends were white and I'm Black. And I'm like, "Okay, I see what's going on." And after that, every time I crossed the border, I would get stopped. I live in Canada. I travel to the States a lot, driving across the border, get stopped, asked extra questions, have my luggage searched, have my person searched, have my vehicle searched, flying to other countries, even on the Eurail when I was backpacking through Europe. And I even called some people out in the Eurail when I got pulled out of the line and checked. I said, "Is this your black check?" And the guy turned red. And I said, "Look, I'm not going to make any trouble. I just want to know so I know it's not in my head. Is this your black check?" And he goes, "My boss told me to check all the colored people."
Wow.
Yeah. And every time it happened, it lowered my ambitions a bit because this is what I have to go through as a Black man. These are the struggles. These are the hurdles I've had to overcome. And, and I know a lot of people go through this, not necessarily from race, but these are the things I have to deal with because I'm a woman or because I'm this age or because I'm this weight. And every time it hits us, it lowers our ambitions a little bit more.
Hmm.
Right. And so that's what was going on with me. And so ambitions I had were, at one point in my life for a 10, now I'm just like, I'm happy to get to a 6. Right. Because that's the story that was running. This is what happens as a Black man, what I have to go through. And one of the worst incidents that happened was I was in Madrid. I'd finally crossed the border without getting caught or checked. And I'm in town
Wait,
and this
that getting caught was not.
caught, yes, being caught for being Black. So, but yeah, an undercover officer comes up to me and says, "Show me your passport." I'm like, "Okay." And I showed him my passport and he's like, "There's no visa. You need a visa." And I'm like, "No, I'm from Canada. Canadians don't need a visa to be in Spain." He goes, "You need a visa." So he takes me and he throws me in a paddy wagon. And then I'm in a paddy wagon being driven around the city now. This is Madrid. And then he throws another Black guy in and another Black guy in and another Black guy in. I'm like, "Oh, okay. I see what's happening now." Eventually there's 10 of us in there. All get taken to jail and we're going to be processed. And I watch as people are getting processed, and the process involves them going through our ID and confiscating our stuff, and then doing a strip search, and then doing an anal cavity search.
Just because if you were supposed to have a visa, you didn't have one,
Yeah.
just for that? Like, is that against the law to warrant that
No,
type
no,
of treatment?
no. The whole thing was to belittle us, to make us feel less than. Like you can tell, that's the whole thing they're doing. In fact, when I was in the paddy wagon, I saw the officer go up to 2 Black guys, and they were having a conversation. They didn't even look at him. They just reached into their shirt pockets, pulled out their citizenship cards, and put it back. And the officer just turned around, and that's normal for them. Cops are just constantly
Right,
coming in to show their card, they put it away.
right.
Right. So that's life there. So I'm in line and I'm like, my anxiety's building
Oh,
as
yeah.
I'm stepping forward and watching the other guys get strip searches and anal cavity searches. I'm like, I don't want to do this. There's nowhere I can go. I'm stuck here. And it's 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 my turn, and I'm just almost freaking out here, but I'm trying to stay calm because God knows what the cops will do to me if I freak out. And when I took off my clothes, one thing I had forgotten is I was in the best shape of my life. I was a bodybuilder at the time.
Uh-huh.
And what I didn't realize was we were in view of the holding cell with the working girls. So when my clothes came off, that cell just erupted with, "Ooh, baby, I love it. You look sexy." And I'm like, okay, this is not so embarrassing. I've got a cheering section. This is pretty cool. And so
Hey.
that wasn't the experience I thought it would be. But then I spent the night on a concrete floor and got the hell out of the country the next day.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so these are the kind of experiences I was having. And when I got home, though, I was talking to one of my coaches, and he says, "Shiraz, are you ready to step out of that story?"
Ah, yes.
And I got pissed, right? Because I'm like, this isn't a story. This is racism. And what he meant by stories is one of the things I've learned is our lives are just a whole bunch of stories.
Yep.
And we think we have good stories and we think we have bad stories, right? So like a lot of people have, I find the best parking spots, right? But then you also have like, I get stopped at borders, or no one pays attention to me, or I never get far in life, or whatever it is. To our unconscious mind, they're all good stories. There's no such thing as a bad story. And people are like, what? Right? But if you look at it like, suppose like you want to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
If at some time your friends wanted to go someplace and you didn't have the money, and you didn't want to go there, you said, well, I'm sorry, I can't afford it. And they're like, oh, if you can't afford it, don't worry about it. And your subconscious mind marks that and says, hey, when we don't have money, we have an excuse that people will buy, right? And it keeps us safe. We don't have to feel embarrassed or ashamed that we don't want to do this with our friends.
Mm-hmm.
So it says, so your subconscious mind says, let's still keep that in our pocket for safekeeping. Let's make sure we have only a certain amount of money because it works. And then if at some point you spent a lot of money frivolously and you're feeling shame because of that, I had that money and I spent it on dancing and travel and stuff, and I got nothing to show for it. I could have put it towards investment. You're holding that shame. Then your mind goes, well, let's not make a lot of money, because then if we don't make that money, there's no way we can spend it frivolously.
Right.
So having very little money is a good thing. So it puts another building block. And then you hear someone complaining about how much they paid in taxes, and you, oh, I don't have to pay that much in taxes. I don't make money. So it's another building block as to why you don't want to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're building these things up. You watch a rich person screw over a bunch of other people. Oh, I don't have that kind. There's no way I can become like that. Another block as to why you don't want to make money. Right. And so you don't realize this is building up as you go into life. You're just frustrated. I'm not making enough money. And then the addiction kicks in. This is where we get into reality addiction. When that rich person does something bad to the poor people, when you say, oh, that's never going to be me, like you don't do this consciously, but unconsciously, that's never going to be me because I don't have the money, you get a hit of dopamine. You may get a hit of
Ah,
oxytocin,
gotcha.
right? And your
Yeah.
body's like, ooh, I like that. Let's have more of this. And let's say you just managed to pay your bills at the end of the month. Now you get some adrenaline going, like more feel-good drugs, and your brain says, hey, when we struggle through the month and then just pull it off, that feels amazing. Let's do that over and over again. And now you're living paycheck to paycheck because your body is chemically addicted to the fix at the end.
Yes, I could see that. That makes
Okay. And
sense.
yeah, and now you're in full-on reality addiction to not having enough money.
Okay.
So when my coach said, "You're willing to step out of the story," I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. This is real. This is racism, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, racism's real, Shiraz, but this is a story." And I'm like, "How is it a story? Because it's got to be a payoff. I'm getting stopped. I'm getting delayed. I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting humiliated. There's no payoff here." And he looks at me and goes, "Shiraz, when you tell your border crossing stories, you light up. You feed off other people's emotional response to your
Right.
struggles. It's your
Exactly.
fix of, yeah, that's it. Yeah, you get it." So
That's really
it was
good.
thanks. And that was it. It was my love fix. That's how I got love from other people, was struggles.
Struggles. Yeah. The emotional response that you're getting from other people from sharing your struggles. And then because I know, like, I have clients and we'll be in
Mhm.
a group coaching call and they just want to like talk about, well, this happened and all these things, and blah, blah, blah. And they spend more time talking about the problems instead of focusing on the solution. And it's like the fact that they keep bringing up all these things, it's like the story that defines them and gives them the excuse why they don't have to show up and be the person that they know they could be, but they're afraid to step into that. It's like safe, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, they're telling the story over and over again because they're looking for that emotional fix. They're trying to get their fix from you.
Yes.
Right.
Right. Okay. Well, maybe I'll have to have you come in and do a little lesson on this. And my clients. Oh, this is really good. So, all right. I have so many questions that I want to dive into that really to really dig into this. But we're going to
Sure.
take a quick break and then we'll come back and then we'll be able to not only like just get into the juice, but now I know you have an amazing gift that you want to share with our audience too. So, so hang tight, everybody, and don't go away. We'll be right back. All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Christie and Shiraz, and we are talking about mindset, reality addictions, how we stay kind of like uh, addicted to the wrong things, and it's
Yep.
stopping us from living our full potential.
Exactly.
And that is
It's,
that's your sweet spot, right? That is your brilliance, is helping people through this so they can make the biggest impact that they, are designed and created to do and that they want to do.
yes. And it's all about choosing your addiction
Okay, let's go into that.
because your body wants to be addicted to something.
I
In
like
that
that.
state of addiction, it maintains homeostasis. But for most people, you're letting circumstances choose what you're being addicted to rather than intentionally saying, this is what I'm going to be addicted
Okay.
to. All right. So, in the case of when I talked to my coach and he's like, you're addicted to people's love for your struggles, I said, okay, no, we're done. I'm going to create way more success. I'm going to get love from people in celebration of my success rather than my struggles.
Yeah.
When I set that intention, when I shifted my mindset there, I stopped getting stopped at borders.
Okay. Yeah.
It's,
Well,
it's
it's amazing how that happens, right? How we attract that stuff, but when we figure out how to not attract it anymore, it goes away.
just goes away. And the other thing is you start to see different things. You have a new perspective. So, for instance, do you know that there are non-white customs agents?
Okay, of course.
Yeah,
I would
it
think
seems
there would
obvious,
have to
right?
be, right? Yeah.
I didn't know that because I was unconsciously lining myself up with the white ones to ensure racism.
Right.
I didn't even know it was happening. And all of a sudden, I'm like, wait, he's Indian, she's Chinese. Where did these people come from? They'd always been there, right?
Right. But your reticular activating system was only seeing the white ones.
Yes.
Yeah, I could see that. So you
And
actually have like strategies. I know we did a little session, and I know one of the things that you helped me discover is my addiction to being responsible, right?
yes.
Being responsible for my client successes, being responsible for my adult children, being responsible for friends, like other people, and taking
Mhm.
ownership of that. And like, why was I, and probably still am in some respect, but I'm aware of it now. But why am I addicted to that need to be the responsible one? And you helped me
So
with that.
yes, and that was the first big belief I needed to clear in my life too. So totally relate to what's going on. Oftentimes, like there's two major things is we're looking for love. And sometimes we figure if we're being responsible, people will love us. And the other thing is we feel we're not worthy. So we think if I become a responsible person, somehow I will gain that
Right.
value. Right.
Right.
So there's different reasons we lock onto the responsibility, but once we're locked onto it, it sucks. Right. Got to be responsible for all these people
Oh, it's
to either get
heavy. It's
love.
a big
Yeah.
burden.
Yeah. And that's it. It always feels heavy. Responsibility always feels heavy.
Yeah.
but we live in a culture where we're taught to be responsible, and like people don't get that the opposite of being responsible does not have to be being irresponsible. It just means instead of I have to do this, you can move to, yeah, I'm going to choose to do this.
Choose
It's
it.
now,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I used to watch Spider-Man as a kid. I mean, I guess I still watch Spider-Man because now I watch the Marvel movies. With great power comes great responsibility, right? So this is huge when you're trying to build a business and your business is growing. There's an element of I'm becoming more powerful. And if you have that story running around, that means more and more responsibility, which weighs you down.
Mm,
And that's why a lot of people end up burning out.
I could see that. I could see that. Now, so do you see that for this particular uh, addiction, do you see
Mhm.
that birth order has a big play in that?
It can, but each person responds to their environment in different ways.
Okay.
For instance, like usually the oldest is the responsible one and has to take care of
Yes.
the others. But in my family, I was the responsible one.
Okay. All right.
So generally, yeah, the oldest ends up being the responsible one. But it's my interpretation of the world when I was a kid, like between 6 and 8, is when that my responsibility beliefs formed. Was no, I'm now responsible for my mom because my mom got sick, and this little 8-year-old kid goes, no, I'm going to be responsible for my mom. No,
Right.
there's only so much an 8-year-old kid can do to be responsible for mom, but the
Of course. Of
belief
course. But
got formed there, right?
yeah, yeah. Okay. So you probably see all kinds of different addictions. And do you typically work with business owners or anybody that you're trying to help break through something?
So it's business owners is where my sweet spot is, and we figure out what the addictions are, and almost all the time it has to do with some form of receiving love. However,
Okay.
they try to manifest that. Um, the other thing is what is it? It's to give yourself a break. Like people create these addictions. I had a client that chronic headaches, right? And it really impeded her business. And she'd had them since she was 6 years old. But what it was is her father was a hard worker, and he kept instilling you have to work hard to succeed. And her mind, as a 6-year-old, interpreted if I'm not working, I'm not working. I'm not a hard worker. So she
Right.
wouldn't allow herself to have any breaks, or she would feel guilty about it.
Oh gosh. Okay.
But if she got a migraine, then she had an excuse to take a break.
Oh, that makes so much sense. So her body manifested those migraines to be able to give it that
Yes.
time down. Yeah. Wow.
So so when we got to that core belief and we shifted it, she stopped having migraines.
Huh. Imagine that. Yeah, I mean, could be all kinds of things that we're dealing with that are manifesting themselves because of something underneath it. And so how do we even discover that we have a problem that we can get help with? Like, I don't know, it just seems like it's very complex to be able to discover how to find the right person to help them. Because we all have so much baggage. I mean, bottom line, we all have baggage. Like
Yes.
some people have like, mountains of bags, but we all have something.
Yep. So the first thing you want to do is shift your mindset in relation to your baggage. Because most people think, why is this happening to me? Why do people treat me this way? Why can't I make enough money? But you want to flip it around and say, why do I want this in my life? Why am I creating this situation?
Mm,
And a lot of times your conscious mind goes, well, I'm not creating this. Why would I want to create this? Why would I want to create illness or poverty or struggle? But when you reframe the question, that's when the answers can start to bubble up from the subconscious mind.
mhm.
So I'm creating a lack of money because if I make lots of money, people are going to come up and say, hey, can I have some? Can you invest in my business? You now have to take care of the whole family because you're the rich one. And you're like, I don't want to have those conversations. And your mind says, I
Yeah.
got you covered. I'm just not going to make money.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So that could maybe be like if we have something in our life that's not going the way we want it to, whether it's money, our career, relationships, health,
Yeah.
just stop and say, okay, why am I creating this? Oh, take ownership of it, right? And then
Yeah.
ask that, and then maybe journal about it, and like really just spend time trying to think about it and go deeper and deeper. And then, and like, so what?
Mhm.
I'm
So
just like
as
going on, but like you're the expert, so you talk about it.
so every consistent problem in your life
Uh-huh.
is a solution for an emotional problem you're not looking at.
Okay.
Right? Because your mind prioritizes the avoidance of emotional distress over physical distress. Right? And physical distress could be lack of money, could be illness, could be not finding the right partners, whatever that is. So when you look at what's the emotional issue I'm trying to avoid, then you can start to pinpoint what it is. So for instance, the two biggest emotions your mind tries to avoid are guilt and shame.
Okay.
And so it'll do whatever it can to avoid guilt and shame, including make you sick, make you poor, make you alone, like all sorts of things. Right.
Okay.
So you have to look at where those things come into play. So, like for the example I used, if you make a lot of money, people come asking you for it. If you feel guilty that you have so much and you don't want to give it to other people, well, then to avoid that guilt, you don't make as much.
Right.
So that's the key
Right.
right there. It's like I get to avoid that guilt. And if you lost some money and you're holding the shame of losing that money, well, then don't make the money. You can't feel that shame again. It's always going to come down to some emotion. It could be anger, it could be frustration, but guilt and shame,
Are the
98% of the time. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. Huh. Okay. And so let's talk a bit. We have a little bit of time yet. So, how do you help people like this? I'm just interested to learn more how you are able to like help people break through these things.
So when I talk to you, I can tell when your conscious beliefs match your unconscious beliefs.
Okay. Yeah, I experienced that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I could ask a question, do you want your business to grow? And you'll say yes. And I'm like, no, that's not actually coming up true. And once we find out there's that discrepancy, then we can dig down to find out what the belief is that's making what you think not real.
Okay.
Once we get to that belief, I basically say, well, here's the belief. Are you willing to step out of that? If you say yes and you mean it, it actually shifts. It actually causes a rewiring of your neural pathways if you actually mean it with the yes. You can't just say,
Right.
yeah, it's going to be, no, I'm done with this. Yes, I'm stepping out of that.
Right.
Right? And sometimes that one time is enough to shift everything. More often, though, we're digging to find belief. There's a whole bunch of beliefs holding it in place. We got to take them out and take them out. But here's where it gets a little worse, though. It's like I said, it's an addiction. So we may shift your beliefs, rewire those neural pathways, but you can go into withdrawal and undo them.
Yeah.
So it's falling off the wagon. And that's what a lot of people don't get. They think, oh, I had a breakthrough and now everything's great. And then they lose it after a few months. They thought, oh, maybe I didn't actually have a breakthrough. No, you did. But then you
Right.
went into withdrawal.
But you went back into those same patterns because they were so deep, right? Like you've done them for so long and they were so easy to like fall back in.
Yeah. And this is why you have to think of this as a journey like it's a mental workout. If you want to become a bodybuilder, you don't go to the gym, have a great session, go, oh, I feel great, and then you're done. Like,
Yeah, you have to keep training.
yes,
So you're a trainer, like you're basically a trainer, neuropathway
I am.
trainer.
Pretty much. Yeah. And this is the thing you got to remember. It's not just that you're training because even if you do what it takes to become a bodybuilder,
Uh-huh.
once you have that body, you can't just say, well, now I don't have to work out anymore.
Right. You've got to maintain it.
Yes.
Huh. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think so. That's what I think sometimes people think that they just have the breakthrough and they're so excited about the breakthrough and they see it change, right? And they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, my life is back on track in whatever area, but then all of a sudden they go back.
Yep.
And then it's like discouraging. And then they think, well, now I'm a loser, right? And then they create this whole other story
Yeah.
that will keep them yeah. So I could definitely see the need to have that ongoing support to keep that pattern from reoccurring again.
Exactly.
Huh.
And yeah, it's and especially if you have a community around you that to help
Yeah.
out, then everyone understands it. And here's the thing, you want to be forgiving of yourself. because most times if people have a breakthrough and then they lose it, this is exactly what you said. Why am I such a loser? Why did I do this? What's wrong with me? But if you get, oh, I went into withdrawal, let's just get out of it again
Right.
without punishing yourself, it actually is easier to break free of the withdrawal until you get addicted to the new reality.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Well, I know the mind is just such a powerful tool, right? And to be
Mhm.
able to, and it doesn't necessarily know reality. So that's why it's so great. We can reprogram it, but we definitely need help with that because we can't solve a problem with the same level of consciousness that got us into that problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. Huh. All
Yeah.
right. Well, is there anything else you want to touch on? I know you've got a great thing that you want to share, a gift that you want to share with our audience. But before we talk about that, is there any other pieces of this you want to talk about? Because
Well, I
this is all, like I said earlier before we hit record, this is something I'm not really like, I'm kind of ignorant in this area. And so I may not have asked the right questions or,
no, no,
what else
it's
do we
good.
want to like dive into here before we head on to the gift giving section?
So there are three main things that help you to change the reality. Number one is that understanding that every consistent problem is a solution for an emotional problem. So we covered that, right? The second thing is knowing you're in an addiction and
Mm,
your body wants to be addicted to something. So you start choosing what you want it to be addicted to. What a lot of people don't realize is you're actually addicted to a specific emotion, right? And
right.
yeah, breaking the habit of being yourself. I don't know if you've read it by Dr. Joe
I
Dispenza.
no.
Okay, so he goes into the science of this.
Okay.
Every emotion we have causes chemicals to flood our body, and each emotion has its own chemical concoction.
Okay. That makes sense.
So, so whatever emotion you're in the most, your cells actually create receptors to receive those specific chemicals. So you become addicted to that emotion. And a lot of the world lives in fear and frustration, in victimhood or anger. So you're stuck there.
Mhm.
So let's say you're in frustration and you decide, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm gonna be happy now. I'm gonna live in happiness. You start to be happy. Eventually, your cells go into withdrawal because those receptors aren't getting the chemicals they're looking for.
Yes, I could see that.
Yeah. So they send a signal to your brain saying, make this person frustrated because we need our fix. And then something, or you're trying to be happy and something happens, you're like, oh my God. And then your cells get flooded with the chemical. They're like, oh, thank God. Yes, thank you. Right. And now you're back to frustration. You have to stay in the new emotion long enough that your cells say, we're not going to get those chemicals anymore. They'll change the structure of the receptors to happiness receptors.
Mhm.
And now you're addicted to happiness, right?
Okay.
I know that I'm addicted to laughter. I don't know if that's an actual emotion, but every day there's always a reason for me to laugh. And I know whenever it does, I'm getting that fix. So what the cool thing is if I get frustrated, if I feel sometimes like, oh my God, I feel like in a victim mindset, my cells go, well, no, we're not getting our fix. Make this guy laugh again.
Okay.
And I love that my body is now physically wired that way.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah,
So how long do we have to stay in this new emotion to be able to create these new addictions?
that's the thing. It's different for every person.
No, Shiraz, you're supposed to be like, "Oh, do it 21 times and you're cured."
Generally speaking, to form neural pathways for people, it's around 30 days,
Okay.
but there isn't a hard fast thing. Some people can do it after a couple of weeks, and some people it's months for that thing to take. But generally, average 30 days. I watched my father shift this in overnight. He just made the decision. And he quit smoking, he quit drinking, and he became happier like overnight just by making the decision.
Just by making the decision.
And
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, I watched like there was no withdrawal symptoms, and I was just like, what is going on with you, man? Like, but that's what he did. And but I've seen other people like years trying to quit smoking, or
Yeah.
years stuck at the same emotion, like some addicted to sadness. So now here's the thing: you can train yourself to start thinking the right thoughts, and because most people can hold a thought for 7 seconds or less, which is about the same as a goldfish. Right? When you learn to hold a thought for 30 seconds or more, that's how long it takes generally to start the rewiring process. So when you start to, if you have access to meditations or guided mindset techniques
Yeah.
that teach you to hold a thought, then
Mhm.
you can now start holding thoughts for 30 seconds. And here's where it gets good is once you built those muscles, those mental muscles, so you can hold that thought for 30 seconds,
Mhm.
you then start to use visualization. So for instance, let's say you want to be a powerful speaker. You want to start visualizing yourself on stage, giving your talk.
Mhm.
And here's the key, because if you see movies like The Secret, they say, just imagine it and feel the feelings. Yes, but, or and actually, imagine it from a first person point of view and keep the scene going for 30 seconds or more, feeling all those feelings, because in that case, your mind thinks it's actually happening.
Yes.
Okay.
That is so,
And
so good.
that's it. That's what the rewiring of the neural pathway starts happening. So you do this each day, and your mind keeps thinking, well, now this is just who I am.
Yes.
So then you start to change how you show up, but it also starts to bring in opportunities that match who you are. And suddenly that's your actual life instead of you just imagining it.
Yes. I love it. This is who I am. And
Yeah,
then whatever we want to create, we just make it happen by the visualization techniques and all.
that's
Yeah.
it. But if you're imagining yourself up on stage, but then you change the scene in 5 seconds to a different stage, or your other thoughts start coming into your mind, like,
Yeah. Then
do
it's
I
like,
really want to do this? What talk do I want to give? Then your mind knows that's not actually happening.
right. Right. Then
That's
you
what,
start, you're wavering and then it's, yeah, I
yeah.
totally get that.
So and here's the thing, here's the cool thing. I do this for my business, and my business just keeps growing and growing and growing. But then one day, I read about a story about these basketball players. This was in 1969. They took these basketball players, put them in three groups. One group was the control group that just sat in a room for an hour a month. Right? The other group was the people that were actually doing free throws. They checked how many free throws they could do. And then they practiced free throws for a month for an hour. And the last group sat in a room imagining making the free throws. And again, this is important. It wasn't imagining doing free throws because then they might be missing and stuff. It's making the shots every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the end of the month, the control group showed no improvement in doing free throws. The group that was actually practicing every day showed a 24% increase in their ability to do free throws. The people that were just imagining it showed a 23%
Oh,
increase.
okay.
Right? So
Wow. They weren't even doing it. They just were imagining.
your mind doesn't care. So last year, I was at a retreat and we were in Cancun, and the pictures came back. People were posting on Facebook, and I saw how big my stomach was. And I'm like, when did I get so fat? Oh my God. And so I'm like, I need to go on a diet. But I knew I wasn't in the mindset to go on a diet. But I do go for walks every day. So in my morning walk, I played out the scenario of me at the gym doing the workout as I'm walking in real time, first person point of view.
Okay.
After 6 weeks, I had lost one size in my belt, like I'd gone down one loop.
Wow.
Right? I wasn't actually doing any workout. I wasn't changing my diet in any way.
You were just
I got,
walking and you were believing that you were actually doing the workout and your brain didn't know any different, right?
and the brain controls the body. And so,
Yeah.
and there's the other thing is then I started working out because I got cravings because my brain says you've been doing this every day for 6 weeks.
Oh, isn't that crazy?
Right. So, and I, when I used to work out, I used to work out at night. But because I was doing the imagination, the visualization in the mornings, my brain says you work out every morning. So I wake up and I'm like, I got to do a workout. The motivation kicked in because that's who I had been for weeks.
Hmm.
And so now I work out on a regular basis. Right.
Yeah. I love
And then
that.
I've gone, yeah, and I've gone down another notch in my belt and I've put on muscle. Right. But it wasn't because I had to force myself and I had to be disciplined. It was visualization.
Right. It created then the desire to keep doing it because you've already established that pattern and the addiction that
Yeah.
followed. Love that.
And I do the same thing for getting clients, for improving my skills in my business, for everything. I do the visualization on a regular basis, and my business just keeps expanding.
Great. Well, you have a wonderful gift that you want to share with the audience today. You want to talk about that?
Sure. So we were talking about how you need to have some way to train your brain so you don't think like a goldfish.
Yes.
And so I've created a series of audios called Stop Thinking Like a Goldfish audios.
Love
They,
that.
it's things I've been doing for years that I didn't even realize was affecting me, because it was something I just got taught as a not even a meditation technique. It's just a focusing technique to hold a thought. Now, if you listen to the audios, there are side effects. So just so you know, one is you will not get unnerved in chaotic situations. You will be able to maintain calmness. Number two is that you will be able to focus a lot more, um, when you need to, like not just in doing the visualization, but you'll be a more focused individual. And number three, which is what I really didn't expect, is that people feel that calmness about you and are actually pulled into your
You become
world.
more magnetic to, yeah, 'cause
Yes.
people love that.
Yeah. And so the cool thing is these audios are like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and 12 minutes long. They're not
Oh,
long.
wow.
You
Okay.
you just try to break that 30-second mark.
Okay.
And you don't have to sit and be in that meditative state. You can, but there some of the design that you're holding something and just focused on the touch of that thing. Some are you can do while you're out for a walk and you're focusing on different sounds in the neighborhood. So it doesn't have to take extra time in your day. You can incorporate them into the things you're already doing.
Gotcha. I love that. Because we're
Yep.
all so busy. So having
Yes.
something that we can actually incorporate into our life and then see the results, I just think that that's perfect. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Shiraz. We will make sure that the link for that is in the show notes where you can go to our gift vault and get that and many other amazing gifts from our past and future guests. But yeah, this is wonderful. I am excited to dig into the audios myself, because I know we can all use the support in that way. But I definitely want to thank you, Shiraz. This was fun.
Thank you for having me, Christy. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. And so thank you all for listening to another episode of the Mastery Unleashed podcast. We encourage you to show us support on whatever platform you listen. Don't think that everybody else is doing it, so you don't have to. We really need everybody to get engaged. Go to iTunes if you can. That's our preferred platform. And just follow us. Follow us as a news process they have that will allow us to better track who our audience is, where they're coming from, so we can continue to support you all better as we continue to bring on amazing guests like Shiraz. So thanks, everybody. And most importantly, thanks, Shiraz.
Thanks for listening to the Mastery Unleashed podcast, where we believe that everyone can have the business and life of their dreams by turning their mess into their greatest message and following their purpose to help the people who need their newfound wisdom and resources. To learn more, visit masteryunleashedpodcast.com. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review to this show.